Okay, everyone. I hope you had some good discussions about what you can ask later and about your research work. So first of all, welcome to all of you. Welcome to all of you online, and welcome to Bastian from WIK Group. We are really happy that you're here today and telling us a bit about insights of the work that you're doing and how Cradle to Cradle could be implemented in a company like WIK Group, but also what challenges are. So we are here today for the questions with the Cradle to Cradle Electronics Initiative and our students from the Technical University who are researching about the questions on what Cradle to Cradle in the electronics sector is, what would be needed for implementing Cradle to Cradle, and what challenges are. And so, this is a really deep dive to get into these questions. And so we are really happy to have someone here from practice and to get more details and more insights. And we have around 1 hour. You will start with your input, and then after that we will get into discussion with the group here. Thank you so much for being here, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nora. And I hope I can live up to the expectation that you created. So, thanks for having me. Thanks for being here, present and online. And this short presentation of mine on C2C and sustainability in practice is intended to give you insights into the work of WIK, a company that embraced sustainability as a driving force for innovation and also as a strategic priority. Now, I will not tell you how it is done, because there are many different ways and you may know it even better than me, but I can tell you how we approach Cradle to Cradle and sustainability, and there is always room for improvement, I'm sure. And this is why I would be very happy if the Q&A later works in both ways. So I guess you have a lot of questions in my direction, but I also have a few questions in your direction. Namely, what do you think we could do better after hearing how we approach it? What is missing maybe as aspects, and where do you agree or disagree with our approach? So I'm curious to hear also your feedback on how we do it and where you think we could do better and evolve. But quickly, as a first step, let me introduce myself. My name is Bastian, working obviously at the WIK Group, and I'm working there for 5.5 years now, and my job position is actually Cradle to Cradle Manager. So a rather uncommon job description. I'm working in the Regenerative Technology Department. The full title is Sustainability and Regenerative Technology. That shall already give a hint that we are aiming for being more regenerative than just less bad or just sustainable. Our scope for today. We have about 3 main topics. First one is the introduction. What is WIK doing? Who are we? Why are we so motivated? What is Cradle to Cradle to us? The second part is about how do we measure sustainability, and some case studies that I want to share with you, highlighting that measuring sustainability isn't always easy and straightforward. So there are many dependencies, as you may know, and the feeling of guts may sometimes even lead you in the wrong way, especially when it comes to electronics. Then last but not least, we will talk about the challenges that we have, but also the learnings that we generated over the past years. And there is room for your questions and answers, and hopefully some answers to my questions as well. Okay, let's start with who is WIK. So we have a range of offerings, let's say. We are a contract manufacturer, basically, And as a contract manufacturer, we can have the full service package, let's say, coming from an idea of the customer of a product, yeah, and then we bring it into the industrialization, or the customer approaches us with a rather mature idea of the product, and we just industrialize, so we just produce the product. So other names would be OEM or ODM, you may have heard about that. So we are about 3,000 people, mainly working in the production facilities, and around 300 engineers worldwide. We have 3 production facilities, one in Shenzhen in China, one in Batam, Indonesia, and one closer to Europe, located in North Macedonia in the city of Prilep. And then there are some smaller branches, our headquarters in Hong Kong. Then we have a branch in Essen, where I am located. Engineering services, development services, and also sustainability is located there. And we have our newest branch in Lucerne. There, for instance, the strategy and the finance office is located. So basically, our customers are B2C customers. So our customers are the brand owners. So we produce devices, and we produce them in the name of, could be Teufel, for instance. We don't do it, but it just came to my mind. Or someone else. Yeah. So we are in the background. This is the reason why you may never have heard about WIK. But we actually produce quite a lot of products in this world, and you all know at least one of our products or the brands that we produce for. So I'm not officially allowed to talk much about our customers, and I will not. So WIK is a hidden champion, but at least all of you know one product that we produce. So what I can say is, which product categories do we have? We have a product category of coffee system, mainly closed coffee systems, meaning capsule coffee systems. So something like an espresso or the Chibo or other things. Yeah. Then we have water and beverage systems, so everything around water, heat, water cool, water filter water, carbonated. Then we have the personal and home care sector, so hair stylers, hair dryers, stuff like that. And recently we also offer more and more circular services, like repair and refurbishment, but also spare parts management, consulting services, development services, with the special focus on circular products. So our company is about 75 years old, and it is a family-owned business, and we have a pioneering legacy. So we stepped into the production market of China quite early in the 70s. We moved into Far East. First we produced in Hong Kong, then we stepped into China, namely Shenzhen, where it was not a wasteland, but it uncomparable to what it is today. So quite an early move. And then in 2015, we had a change of the CEO, so the younger generation took over, namely Christoph Dörn, and this is where we started to sharpen our sustainability profile, because Christoph is very intrinsically motivated and cares very much about the planet and tries to find solution to really enable our clients to be more sustainable. There we go. Okay, took a while. So here you see a bit of our vision and mission statements that we have. You find that a lot in different companies. We all want to be green, but I think I can safely say we are willing to go the extra mile. We invest, we actively search for solutions to create more sustainable options for our customers, and we are willing to explore and innovate, and we are willing to fail and to learn from it. So we have a culture where we really try to learn and to experiment and to do things differently, actively. So it is not always easy, but especially the culture on innovating, failing, and learning from it is something that that helps a lot once you accomplish that, but getting there is really tough. But how exactly do we want to achieve this? How do we want to be more sustainable? Well, we do have like the classic topic where we are rather mature and proud. So, for instance, green energy, solar panels on all of our facilities generating a relevant amount of energy or share of energy for our consumption. We also do heat recovery for our own in-house pulp tray manufacturing. We have mini crushers to reduce the waste. You know, so we do supplier audits, trainings, and much more. We are continuously searching for improvements to really make our manufacturing processes more energy efficient. So this is what we can do in our ballpark, let's say, as an OEM. And we also decide to go the extra mile here and there. As you can see, I'm wearing a Free the Sea t-shirt, and Free the Sea is the name of our subsidiary that we founded on Batam Island. So we take ocean-bound plastic from the island of Batam and the surrounding area and make our own polymer out of it, where from this polymer we produce then new coffee machines. And this is a pioneering move, so we became the first OEM globally to integrate this vertically sourced, full traceable ocean-bound plastic into the production of high-volume coffee machines. And it's not only the, let's say, the aspect of having this as a recycled content in our machines, but also the social aspect that we care about. So we collect it on Batam Island in areas where there is little to no access to a waste collection system, so mainly the rural areas. And we also provide access for our collection partners to healthcare and educational systems there. So this is where we can definitely say we go the extra mile and can be very proud of it. So what we see is an increasing demand for reports from our customers. So we decided to collect more and more metrics and data points in our facilities, in our day-to-day habits, to really be able to create customized reports and cope up with the need that is there emerging. And yeah, this may look like a typical summary page to you, so this is kind of replaceable with other companies maybe as well. We want to follow eco-design rules, we want to have low impact materials, and this is not what we wanted to show here, but we wanted to show you that we have set the bar significantly higher than that. So unlike other companies, as I said, at WIK, sustainability is driven directly from the CEO. So he's extremely motivated, and the sustainability and strategy and business development teams report directly to the CEO and are tightly aligned. And we all know that what we are aiming for, this transition, is not done overnight. It is a journey, it is a marathon. And we asked our colleagues, we asked our partners to tell us stories that are linked with this transition, with this journey. And from all of the inputs that we collected, we created a strange screen. What is this? Maybe I was told you are the technical expert. Yeah. All right. So what you should see on the screen is what we call the bigger picture, or our big picture. It shows the journey from us being represented as an octopus. We are octi in this picture, traveling from the red ocean to the blue ocean. And the red ocean, I thought it would show, no. Maybe let me use this one. I should really see it. Okay. Yeah. But I would also need those. Just a second. You need to see it. F7, ja, F8 hatte ich schon. Erweitern. Yeah, maybe another cable could also do the trick. So, in this picture, you could see dozens of stories that were... Yeah, full screen? What? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Tim. There we go. So this is our big picture, and you can see dozens of stories that are shown here. And this is the journey of Octi, the octopus, traveling from the red ocean to the blue ocean. So the red ocean in the business context is the ocean where we have to compete better, so to say. So the red ocean, we have many competitors. Oh, sorry. We have same or similar products. Price competition is strong, and it's called the red ocean because of the bloody competition that we have there. Yeah? Example for this market are, for instance, the smartphone market, or airplanes, or coffee chains. While as the blue ocean represents here a new uncontested space in the business context with no direct competitors, or little competitors. So we are talking about a unique value for our customers. This is the vision that we have. New demand is created, but also higher profit is potentially possible. Examples for companies that entered successfully the blue ocean are Netflix, for instance, or Cirque du Soleil, like a mix of circus and theater. There is no direct competition for that. So you can, as I told you, you can see different stories. One of them I would like to point out especially is this little diver here. This is our CEO, Christoph, diving in the ocean of, let's say, in front of Batam Island, and figuring out that it cannot stay like this, because there was, when he went down, there was like no trash visible, but then the tides turned, the wind turned something, he went up and it was trash and plastic litter everywhere, and this was like mind-changing for him. So this was like his experience when he noticed, okay, wow, we have to do something else. And we have to use the levers that we have in our hand to change something, actually. Okay, so we have tons of different stories. I could talk hours with you, to you about these stories, but let's keep it as is. Keep in mind, this is not just another vision and mission. This is strategically embedded in WIK. So what guides us then through this journey? So we were looking for something that guides us as an independent, as a science-based framework. And this is where we stumbled across Cradle to Cradle, of course. And Cradle to Cradle we choose as our guiding framework because it resonates very well with our ambitions that we have. So it's holistic, it's strict, it's science-based, it's independent, and it's future-oriented. Also, consequentially, we became impact partner of the C2C NGO and enjoy the great networking opportunities that we have here, and for instance, also the great impact on the IFA show last year and hopefully also this year. Counting on you, Tim. So what especially resonates with us is that green today is not what we are looking for. So green today is in the less bad area, and if I am allowed to quote Mr. Braungart, one of the co-founders of Cradle to Cradle, as you know, if by protection we mean causing less destruction, then we could also say we protect our child by hitting them only 5 times a day instead of 10. This is not protection. And the quote goes on, there are simply too many of us in the world to be less harmful. We cannot be less harmful. We need to change something systematically. So we need to think different and do things differently. And this is where cradle to cradle certainly comes into play. So this standard is trying to push us to the sustainable area and then even beyond to the regenerative area. And regenerative is what we are aiming for. Now, I think I don't have to introduce the 5 pillars of cradle to you. You all are very aware of that. But when we started to dive deeper into cradle to cradle, we quickly found that there are 2 categories of requirements. Some, we could say, are rather process specific and others are rather product specific. And as an OEM that is producing products being designed by other people, we have little say in the product specific area, but a lot in the process specific area, because this is our ballpark, the manufacturing. So first of all, we looked into the process specific requirements and started to sharpen our profile in a way that we are compliant with these requirements all the time. So this is independently from any certification that we have. This is our new standard, so to say. Now, there is a little tricky part. Certificates are awarded to a product and not to a producing company. So we couldn't really talk about it because we don't have a certified product yet. So we needed something else. So we spoke to our assessor, EPEA, and decided to create something that's called a scorecard, a cradle-to-cradle scorecard. So basically take all the requirements from a cradle-to-cradle certification, remove everything which is product related, and then the resulting requirements are what is judged here, and this is then awarded to our facilities. So you can see that all 3 facilities that we have are on a very good level. So we have reached the gold level compliance, and therefore we are now allowed to focus more on the product sustainability. So since we have all the processes in place, yeah. But how do we assess product sustainability at WIK? What would you say? Which one is the more sustainable option? I guess nobody would pick the plastic fork, right? However, if we try to measure, for instance, the CO2, then there's a clear winner, I would say. The plastic fork has less CO2. Of course, this is not a fair comparison. We all know that. No, we have to do a fair comparison, and therefore maybe talk about the functional unit. And the function of a fork is to eat a meal. And if we compare 1,000 meals, it is different. Yeah, of course, this is very basic knowledge and nothing new to you. But the point is that if we try to measure sustainability, it's not always clear and not always simple to interpret those values. So here it is quite obvious. But if we look into designing a product and aim to make it more sustainable, then maybe we need to invest a little bit more CO2 here to reduce it there. There are dependencies. And yeah, it's hard to explain this to all the stakeholders involved in designing a product. Yeah. So here obviously the longer lifetime leads to a better result. So is longer lifetime always something positive? What would you say? If I ask like this, maybe not. So let's take a look at car tires. There we go. So a car tire loses about 1.2 kg material over lifetime. And this is likely one of the largest single sources of microplastic in the world. Now, if we optimize the tire for a longer lifetime, then we need less tires. Sounds perfect, right? But in the end, we create a different problem because the microplastic ends up in the environment, and also this microplastic is then more persistent because we have a more persistent rubber mixture. Yeah? So also here, I would like to quote Mr. Braungart: "We perfected the wrong thing and made it perfectly wrong." You may have heard that one before as well. Speaking of Michael Braungart and C2C, so how does C2C assess product sustainability? Well, here we are talking about the two pillars, material health and product circularity. And what we did at WIK to prepare for these pillars is that for product circularity, we understood that it's super important to understand the whole product life cycle and to design accordingly. So right from the start, we need to ask the right questions and understand what the designated end-of-life scenario is, and so on and so forth. But this also, again, our role as OEM is a bit tricky because we are more in the later part of the development. So here, I will come back to this later. However, we could say life cycle-centric product development is something where we dive into and really wrap our processes around this to understand better and to guide our colleagues with the right choices. Then the topic of material health is particularly interesting because this is one of the most time-consuming and, let's be honest, also annoying things in cradle to cradle because you rely on information from your suppliers that they don't like to share, let's put it this way. So you have to convince, you have to preach, you have to ask 1,000 times and run behind these values that you need. And it is a very time-consuming pillar. But it has a high potential to, let's say, shorten the certification time and to create assets within your company. So what I'm talking about is a database. We found a way, together with EPEA, to have like a shortcut in the assessment. So when you talk about different generic materials, we know already today what are the typical issues. For instance, when we talk about ABS, we automatically talk about the residual styrene content. This is the main issue when it comes to material health and ABS. So when we ask the right questions to our suppliers without asking for the full disclosure of the bill of material, we can already have a good idea whether this is the likelihood that this material has a good rating is higher or lower. And we built systematically this database with pre-assessed materials and also assessed materials to be ready and have more options to choose from when it comes to actual product developments. However, C2C driven product developments are the exception and not the rule. Let's be honest, for us it is the case. And how do we assess product sustainability for all of our products then? Well, we tried an approach called product impact assessment. So we wanted to limit the amount of metrics that we take to judge a product sustainability to the minimum number possible while still having enough clarity in the message, enough effectiveness. And our approach is a set of these 5 metrics. So you can see here the WIK compliance. So how is the material that we are using compliant with the recycling pathway of WIK? Yes or no? The very generic value. No? And then we have the general recyclability. So how well can we recycle a material? Let's imagine we get a bag of fully sorted, clean, pure material of one type. What can we do with it? Something good, something less good, downcycling, same quality. Then, of course, the product carbon footprint. Then the topic of material health is here also in. In most of the cases, it will be the generic values, like the pre-assessment I told you about. And then the recycled content. So we believe that these metrics help us to design products efficiently for the designated life cycle. So we can also balance and put more emphasis on one or the other. So when we're talking about a linear life cycle model, where we end up in the WEEE system. Of course, the general recyclability is less important than the WEEE compliance. The other way around, when we have a circular business model where we get back the materials, WEEE is less important than the general recyclability, because we have the chance to take the materials and make something good out of it. So these are the guiding metrics for research and development, for global sourcing and life cycle management in WIK. To give you or to share some of the key findings here, you can see the rating for material health in a made-up value of 3 is the best, 1 is the worst, and product circularity, so the general recyclability, same logic here. So you can see, for instance, polypropylene in the top right corner is, be careful, it's generic, so there might be polypropylenes with a bad rating, but in general, the likelihood that polypropylene is a good non-toxic material is very high. So we have polypropylene in the top right corner. It can well be recycled, and it's very untoxic. And it is even WEEE compliant, so this would be a good material for us to make our products from in the given business cases that we have. While, for instance, the ABS here can be well recycled, but has often the issue of the styrene content. I'm not saying we cannot find ABS that gets a good rating for material health. As I said, it's generic, but the likelihood. So you can see where we are. Let's dive a bit into some case studies. How much time is left, Tim? No? Good, okay. Perfect. Perfect. So let's dive a bit into the case study of one of these capsule machines that we produce. So when we take a look at the CO2 footprint, then we will quickly find that the PCBA has a huge share of the footprint of this machine. So the idea is, of course, let's reduce it, let's make it smaller. Let's reduce the weight, let's make it smaller. But when it comes to electronics, smaller is not always better, I must say. So when we take a look at electronics, there, for instance, this microcircuit that we see here, then maybe I will take the laser pointer. Okay, here. Now you can see it, okay. So here we have this IC chip, and this is basically the wafer and the energy that went into it to create the structures on it, and so on and so forth. And then we have the gold wires to connect the IC with all the pins in this encapsulation. So this encapsulation is listed here in the other materials. So basically, it makes no difference if we have different chip sizes, because the component, different packaging sizes, because the component that mainly defines the footprint is this small IC chip in the center, which is the very same for all these 3 housings. So here we cannot say that smaller is better, because it has literally no impact. They have virtually the same carbon footprint, but now smaller can even be worse. So when we try to connect these different packaged chips, then we may have some issues when it comes to the ball grid array assembly, because it is so tightly packed. We need to route all these contacts to somewhere, because they need to be individually electrically contacted. And you just have 2 dimensions. You just have this flat plane of the PCB. So what can we do? Well, we can go into the 3rd dimension. So we start stacking. So these are multi-layer PCBs. This is a common standard. But the smaller you get, the more integrated you want to be, the more layers you need. And the more layers you need, and the more these tubes here are called vias that connect all these layers. The more vias you have, the more energy efficient energy intense the production of your PCB is. Meaning to say, in this particular example, the miniaturization gives more carbon footprint than the larger PCB that even has a higher weight. So there's a 40% reduction in choosing the larger footprint with the larger chip with the simpler PCB design than in the miniaturization. So this is somehow counterintuitive. Another thing that I would like to share with you is that we should focus on the core function of the parts that we design. So here we see a part from a coffee machine, and we have a strong longitudinal force in this part. And the initial assembly is made out of a high-performance polymer, which is a glass fiber reinforced PA. So it is virtually a replacement for metal. Yeah? So we have a very strong material just to cope with this one special force or strong force that we have. So it is also not well recyclable because we have this glass fiber reinforced material, and if you shred it, the glass fibers will be cutted, we will get a quality loss. You cannot do this over and over again. Maybe once or twice, you need to add a bit of, it's complicated. Is there a way to have it simpler? Yes, so we can optimize for design. So here we can use low performance plastics without reinforcements and standard components like steel rods. Yeah? So the steel rods take care of the longitudinal force, and the ABS does the rest of the structural, let's say, assembly. But now we have two materials that have less carbon footprint, and they are very well recyclable. So we see the footprint is lower, and we have a better recyclability. However, now we have 8 more screws. And these 8 more screws, well, how to judge whether this is a good approach or a good option or not? So an alignment with the manufacturer would be very, very crucial here to understand maybe does the manufacturer have the option to have an automatized assembly and the robot does this in 0.5 seconds and there's virtually no impact? Or do we have manual labor here and this has a significant impact on the costs maybe? So to judge the desirability, the feasibility of such ideas, a good collaboration between the manufacturer, the designer is needed. So the last part from this pitch is about the current challenges and learnings that we generated throughout this journey. So first of all, our role as OEM is really, really challenging. So we have very high ambitions. We have this standard development process where, as you know, regenerative design options are numerous present in the beginning, but then vanish over time. The more decisions you make, the less impact you can still generate, or the more costly the changes are. There are two different ways to explain this. Then our role as OEM is we are really late in the chain. So when we are talking about industrialization, we have a phase where the last prototypes, let's say in the R&D, touch, let's say, our area of influence and competence, and then they are taken over into our area where we industrialize, where we then do where we are good at. But we have little, say, levers left to optimize really the product, especially not the big ones like the business model or others. So also important is that we have limited say. These are not our products. These are products belonging to our customer. And if we want to change something, we always have to get their okay. We have to convince them. So we are so much focused, or that's why we are so much focused on the KPIs, on measuring potential impact, to have arguments in place to talk to our customers to make this attractive. Yeah? However, I must also say that after a certain development period where maybe repairability is interesting, where maybe the business model is interesting, the attention of the main focus of the customer shifts towards quality, towards cost leadership, and also then later on the delivery performance as well. So these are then the main topics, and then every change is judged against that. So even if we come up with a solution, we say, okay, you can reduce the recycled, you can improve the recycled content, we can use material B versus material A, and material B is same cost as material A. So there is no impact on the bill of material costs for you. And it reduces by 20% your CO2 footprint. The customer will say, wait a minute, sounds good, but every change has also the risk of, let's say, quality losses, disruptions in the production, etc. So this is also somehow priced in. So even a neutral cost, at neutral cost, a change is not attractive. Yeah? So these are some learnings that we had. Sorry. Yeah. Where we want to go is take more responsibility in the role, or engage more in the role as an ODM. In comparison to an OEM, an ODM has a say in the product design. So we can align better the topics of R&D and industrialization, and have more, let's say, access to these levers I was talking about earlier that are larger when it comes to product sustainability in the early phases of the development process. Also, partners like Helpling, as shown here, the blue part, help us to bridge this. So Helpling is a development partner, or let's say an engineering office, engaged with some of our customers, and knowing us and knowing what our customers want helps to bridge what's possible and to evaluate the ideas that are on the plate, so to say. Yeah. Remember the example with the screws, for instance. So in general, our current pressing challenges that we have is very much centered around data or data. So we have systems in place that, let's say, grew over time. We have routines in place that grew over time, and we have more and more data-driven decisions where we need certain data points at certain points in time for people to make decisions or to base their decisions on. So here it is very important for us to harmonize the systems, to have a solid data management coming from our suppliers, collecting the data, digesting it internally, making the right conclusions, identifying areas where we can improve, and thus elevating the whole game that we entered. So also empowering properly the teams to drive the sustainable agenda is part of this action. So there are decisions being made at certain points in time in the development process, and people need to base their decisions on the data, and sometimes the decisions are being influenced by what happens before, what happens afterwards. So we have to connect everybody much better than it was needed in the past. This goes along with the governance, defining roles clearly, and who's responsible for what. So I would say classical topics. And what I also wanted to show you is our refurbishment hub. So we do refurbishment in North Macedonia and Prilep. And we also collected some learnings there. So we as an OEM, we have our way to construct lines, production lines. So this is very efficient. You have always the same step. You can you have different steps in a production of a product. You have a few screws, then it goes to the next station. You can. This is like a well-oiled machine. So there is routine in it. You can measure. You can optimize. And when we started our refurbishment business, we tried to do the same. We tried to imagine the process as kind of linear and unflexible. However, when you try to refurbish machines and try to do that, you enter devil's kitchen and you will not be very efficient. So we, for instance, defined replacement kits. So to standardize, a machine comes in and we replace every time this and that component. We perform always the same steps without analyzing what is really the issue, what is the usage scenario. Was this a rather new machine or a rather old machine? How many times was the pump being used? What is the residual lifetime that it still has, etc. So what I'm saying is we leave a lot of potential laying on the floor because we don't, we are not familiar with this, let's say, flexible approach that we need in refurbishment. So this is very different from what we are used to, and thus it is a strong learning that we want to include in the next product generations, and that we will also include in the next product generations. So here also what we figured out is that new business models in general, when we talk now about business between our customers and the consumer, would definitely help to remove the aspect of time here. What I mean is when we have a business model where the customer does not own the device, we can very easily switch devices, give a refurb device for an old device that comes in, and have a quick approach to the market. While when we have a device that is owned by a customer, there's a certain expectations, just a few days, and then the logistic gets more complicated, there is more time pressure, and less flexibility may be possible. Overall, we could say that for low-value devices, the approach of refurbishment doesn't seem to be economically feasible, especially when we're looking at a centralized approach. So here the decentralized approach with repair centers that most of our customers maintain is the status quo, and there we could try to improve the sustainability in cooperation with the repair centers. There might be some options, but I think these low-value devices we will never actively take back because it simply doesn't make any sense because the value is so low. But this may also change. This is just a momentary analysis. So for these high-value devices here, we have a high-value water dispenser. Centralized refurbishment does make sense. However, there is still a lot of room for improvement, as I said. Now, I wanted to show you something which I have in my bag, but never mind. I can also do it like this. So to conclude, is it there? No. It's don't worry. So overall, we can say we are progressing. Yeah. Sometimes faster, sometimes slower. Often I feel it is too slow, and I would like to be faster. This is why I also, I don't know, we had an interview before I said it to you. It feels a bit strange because I know I want to be there, but I'm here, and I often forget that we are coming from this area. So this is already something, but this is like the gap is, yeah, this is something that really I want to share with you, that keep the courage to make the change, and even small steps make a difference. And therefore I wanted to show you something that I received from my hotel yesterday when I checked in. There is this paper card where they put in the key card. And this paper card had a red button on it, or a red sticker on it. And I asked the hotel, why are you doing this? So, and they explained to me they are testing how often they can reuse these, let's call it paper wrappings. Yeah? And I was apparently the second user of this one, so I had one red button, so there were others that had 2 or 3. So with this initiative, you could already start thinking in the right direction, making your first analysis, and based on what they learn, they will do the next steps. I mean, hotels are quite advanced when it comes to cradle to cradle already, luckily. Yeah, and I was just amazed to see that these little steps happen and that this mind shift is going in the right direction. I didn't bother to have one wrapping that is pre-used. I don't know. Maybe we all should open a bit more. Maybe not you, because who am I preaching to, but as a society in general. So with this, I would say thank you very much for your attention. I hope it was not too boring for you. And I'm very curious for your questions and for your answers to my questions. So thanks a lot.
So thank you very much for your talk, and I wanted just to say bye to everyone on the live stream. If you want to be more in the discussion, then maybe next time you come here. It's every Friday, the next week's Friday at 11 o'clock you can come. And we will have some time to go into discussion now. Bye-bye.